Hi, my name is Ariella Gomez. I currently live in Lake Wales, Central Florida. I moved here 5 days ago to a 12-acre farm. It's currently just some fields right now. So what I'm currently working on is building up this farm. I'm really going to use a lot of the principles I studied in MESA, such as agroforestry, focusing on native plants, because there's a myriad of benefits when you do that. Companion planting, so you get a nice nutrient balance for your plants and your soil and your ecosystems. And that is also supported by other things we studied in MESA, such as the fertility cycle. So that's really what I'm focusing on, is building this up and making it a really sustainable ecosystem. I'm also have been doing things like value-added products, such as taking my herbs that I grow and then making it soap to help kind of just support my livelihood. And so those are the main things that I've been working on since MESA. I'm an alumni of Training in Applied Agroecology Program TAAP Cohort 4 from MESA. And today I'm going to be talking about fertility cycles. So broadly speaking, there are two types of decomposition. There's anaerobic with oxygen. No, there's anaerobic without oxygen, and aerobic decomposition with oxygen. Putrefaction is a term for the anaerobic decomposition. Organisms will break down more complex proteins into simpler compounds, so plants will be able to take up the nutrients. And then anaerobic decomposition, which is with oxygen, and those organisms are able to do something very similar, but they produce different byproducts. For example, with anaerobic decomposition, they can produce things such as methane and ammonia, which can be toxic to plants. So when you till the soil, you can bring up the anaerobic microbes that do not want oxygen to the top, and then you can bring things that need to be aerobically decomposition more deeper into the soil where there's less oxygen, and that can really mess up the cycle. So it's one of the reasons why tilling the soil can harm your life cycle, your fertility cycle. So after that first stage of decomposition happens, then we start to form the stable humus. Humus is basically decomposed organic matter, which is what we want to have that really rich soil. So soil plasma, which is a jelly-like substance made up of water, different amino acids, and just soil particles. That excrement comes from the organic life happening in the soil. So it's a jelly-like substance that coats soil particles in clay, helps form the stable humus. It basically acts as a warehouse for plant nutrients. The sticky humus holds a lot of polysaccharides, which are complex sugars, and they help to bind the soil together to give it a really nice texture called tilth. It forms really nice aggregates. These are really important for soil porosity, so to allow oxygen to flow, as we discussed in the last slide. Oxygen is really important for aerobic decomposition. It helps with water retention as well, which is really important so your soil's not dry, or you don't have to overwater your soil. And it just provides a really fertile environment for your plants and your organisms and your fungi to thrive in your soil. And there's the uptake of nutrients. Minerals are held in the soil in the form of crystal lattice ions. Ions are basically a charged atom or charged particle. So if you have a positively charged or a negatively charged, meaning there's either an electron or an absence of electrons in your outer shell, not to get too much into chemistry, but it has to do with the charge of the atom, the compound. So weathered ions become free ions, and they're stored in the soil solution. And then biologically released ions are able to attach to the stable humus. They're stored, and then when a plant wants a certain mineral, it can release an ion from the roots to then attract a different ion from the soil. And that's how they're able to uptake nutrients in the process called cation exchange. Chemical fertilizers can destabilize the natural fertility cycle because when they're produced, they're made to be very water soluble. To achieve this, becomes an excessive amount of salts are added. In the soil, these synthetically added mineral nutrients are found in the form of free ions. So the plant must take up additional water to absorb these ions. Then therefore the balance of the plant is controlled by the type and amount of nutrients supplied by the fertilizer. Adding unwanted minerals can cause an imbalance between the swarm ions and the free ions, and plants in search of nutrients will then have to absorb extra quantities of water, searching for minerals that are not really available because the only minerals available are the ones added by the fertilizer. So if they're looking for micronutrients that are not part of the fertilizer, they're just going to be taking up water instead of actually getting what they're looking for. So that's a reason why chemical fertilizers can be really bad for your fertility cycle. These are the works cited. I highly recommend all of these resources, especially if you really want to get deeper into the chemistry of the fertility cycle. Kind of touched on it, but it's really interesting to know deeper about these things. I have my email, Gaia Farms NYC. That's like my little farming email. I have my personal email below. I have my professional Instagram, Gaia Farms NYC, and my personal one as well if you wanted to reach out.